U.S. stocks record worst day in 2 months on rate rise worries. And hi, friends. Welcome back to the channel. As you know, the markets are feeling a lot of pain today. I want to go through some of the details and the daily news. So we'll start coverage with the Russia-Ukraine war. Essentially, Biden is over in Warsaw, and he's saying our support will not waver, and basically signaling that they're going to keep fighting this on the U.S. side. And Putin saying basically the same thing. You read the headlines. Putin halts nuke pact with U.S., vows to push war in Ukraine. Now, there's a couple of details which I want to talk with you guys about this. So one is Putin is saying, they're going to keep fighting. Russia's fighting for historic lands in Ukraine. And they're essentially saying, we're going to quit cooperating with USA regarding nuclear weapons. And I understand there's been headlines out there that said, World War III is coming, things like that. And it doesn't look good, to be perfectly frank. It doesn't look good, but it's not quite as bad as some headlines might suggest. If you look more carefully, the foreign ministry, this is over in Russia, they soften their language a bit. And even though Putin is saying, hey, we're going to pull out of the nuclear deal, Russia's decision to suspend treaty can be reversible, meaning that they're saying, hey, we're going to pull out now, but they can always reverse that. So don't think it's Armageddon quite yet, but I'm just saying it's not great. Just even having this conversation is not great at all, of course. And you can read the headlines. Putin's move on nuclear treaty may signal end of to formal arms control. Now, there's a couple things I was looking at this. It didn't seem like they were pulling out right away in terms of the treaty, because they're saying here, Putin made it clear that he was not willing to pull out of the treaty, which expires 2026. So, right now, it's just tough talk in terms of nuclear weapons. They have a lot already. I mean, it's saying here the treaty keeps the limits of both sides to 1,550 nuclear weapons. I mean, how many weapons do we need? I mean, we'll see. The other thing is too, I was thinking about, how long could this thing go? And I was checking casualties. It is hard to estimate how many casualties there are, and this is on both sides. And casualty doesn't necessarily mean deaths, because casualties can be injuries. Missing could be as well. Right now, it's saying Russia's casualties in Ukraine near 200,000. Now, this is from about on February 4th, so about a week or so ago. However, the estimates are hard to determine exactly. I was reading another one. It was saying the death toll, this is from the Russian side, could be 60,000 troops. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to give you the truth in this. I just want to show you guys, what it is. When you talk in terms of total loss of life, because I don't want to, preface one person's life over another. I think that's all equal, to be perfectly frank. This was saying that possibly 250,000 soldiers on both sides. I was just reading this here, and either killed or wounded. And then, it's just, it's a lot of people. And then you also have civilian casualties, and here it was estimated between 10 and 30,000. So I don't ever want to make light of these numbers or anything like that. And I know when you read this stuff, it just seems like abstract numbers, but these are real people over there. So I think the war will end eventually. I just I can't tell you guys when. And again, there's tough talk from both sides. So just want to share the news on that. Markets were down today. One is the rate rise, and two, you could talk about the war. So down is down 700 points, as you guys can see, and it was all three indices were down. The yields are spiking. It's been like that since around September 22. So we got the 2-year and the 10-year. We'll look at the actual rates as of this recording. So the 12-month is at 5%, 6-month at 5.02, 2-year 4.72, and then the 10 years at 3.95. And I mentioned you guys before, if that hits above 4%, it's tough for stocks. I mean, why take the risk right now when there's so much downside? We talked about that this morning, where Mike Wilson over at Morgan Stanley was saying there could be 20-some% downside in the coming months in the first half of 2023. And you look at the sectors today. There was a lot of pain. Every sector was down. Every single sector is down, right? And if you take a look at individual stocks, the only things that were really moving to the upside, right? Most everything was red. You had basically your Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, so it's defense stocks. I'm a big Lockheed guy. I'd say I'm saying several times on the channel. Walmart was going up a little bit. General Mills. I could see PayPal up a little bit, but most things were down. And Walmart and Home Depot had their earnings, and one thing that they were saying, yes, shoppers spend more on the basics, but there was a couple key notes. So one was Home Depot was saying that, people bought a whole bunch of the stuff to repair their homes before, but they don't necessarily expect people to do that again. Like, for example, if you build a deck and you go to Home Depot to buy all the supplies, are you going to build a second deck? Probably not. Walmart was saying that people were essentially had to spend more money on like food and things that they need, right? So they're cutting back on spending on like your TVs, electronics, and discretionary kind of things. So that was sort of the keys from that. The estimates were a little bit better, but not estimates, sorry, they came in a little bit better than estimated, but their forecasting was soft. Essentially, why the market was also kind of worried about that. This was an interesting one. Why? Well, Walmart doesn't know should worry us all. And there's just a couple quotes here. This is an opinion piece, but there was a couple key quotes from the CEO that I want you guys to hear. So this is coming from the CEO over there, and the saying, Chief Financial Officer John Rainey said the company is being cautious because there's just a lot we don't know. We could tilt into a recession, again, it's coming from Walmart. We don't know what happens to consumer spending. We don't know what happens to layoffs, household income, and we're so early into the year, there's a lot of unknowns right now. So they're just, worried that people aren't going to be buying stuff. And essentially, guys, I keep repeating this over and over again, right? So, in order for stocks to move up, essentially companies need to make money. So that means they got to control costs. They got to make sure people are still buying their said goods. And also too, making sure their profit margins are still there. Now, something else they also said, again, this is, so this one's from the CEO, not the CFO, that the Walmart shoppers are still making purchases, but they are choiceful, discerning, and thoughtful. So I think that sort of really, puts that in a perspective of what we can expect. Now, one of the things that happens is that for many shoppers, say in the middle, they may cut back on their more expensive shopping and then shift over to Walmart. So like, for example, maybe people who are more likely to go to, in the past, go to Macy's or say Bloomingdale's. Now they may be more likely to go to something like a Walmart, right? So looking to cut costs. Also, too, there was a really odd story. We'll read the headlines. Mormon Church and investment advisor fined by U.S. regulators. And I guess this investment branch of the Mormon Church is called Ensign Peak. Anyone who's Mormon in this community, I would love to hear your thoughts. There are people who live in Utah. This should be a huge scandal. I just don't know. I don't live in Utah. I don't know how regular people feel about it. But basically, they were trying to hide where their money is going because churches do invest money, right? They collect a bunch of money from their followers, or I guess members, you could say, congregation, and then, they grow their money like any other person or organization who has a ton of money. They don't just put it in the savings necessarily. And basically the gist of it is that they're trying to hide what they're doing with their money. We'll read the details because this is such an unusual story. So let's see here. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has fined the Mormon Church for a nonprofit and a nonprofit organization that manages $32 billion in equity portfolio. So they got $32 billion, you guys can see there, and attempts to conceal the scale of its investment. So it's trying to hide stuff. The Mormon Church is trying to hide where their money is going. It's crazy, right? Ensign Peak Advisors, the investment firm owned by, and this is again, they're fined by the SEC, owned by the Church of Latter-day Saints, failed to file, so they didn't file quarterly investment disclosures known as the 13Fs. And then they set up more than a dozen shell companies to help hide the size of the church's equity portfolios. They got a bunch of shell companies over there. Like, what the heck is going on over there, guys? So that's why I said I'd love to hear anyone here in the Mormon Church what you guys think about this. And this is the quote from the government. We allege that the LDS's church's investment manager, with the church's knowledge, went to great lengths to avoid disclosing the church's investments, depriving the commission and the investing public of accurate market information. And essentially, they agreed to pay the fine of $4 million from the investment firm, and then $1 million from the church. And then they are also saying, though, and we'll highlight this in green, they are not admitting any wrongdoing. However, they are paying the fine. So you take that as you may. But like I said, I'd love to hear from anyone who is part of the church or lives in Utah or anything like that has any sort of like inside info on the scoop. But when I read this stuff, it sounds bad to me. You are paying the fine, although you're not admitting wrongdoing. So who knows what to make of that. Anyway, do appreciate everyone's time. Please stay safe out there, and I'll catch you in the next video.